Welcome to The Teach, where we're going to go through what you need to know to bring viticulture to the table for the first time. In viticulture, we are winemakers competing for business in the cutthroat winemaking industry. We win a game of viticulture by collecting the most victory points over a course of a game. I love viticulture because it's such a dynamic Euro and worker placement game that really allows you to take your own path to victory. Although other players can impact how you play, you always feel like you have the ability to take the best action possible and really play to your strengths and your strategy. So let's jump into the teach. A game of viticulture is broken down into seasons, and we all know those seasons, but the two main seasons within viticulture are summer and winter. In spring, we'll be choosing our starting location, and this is the first stage at which we can compete with other players. Do you want to go early, or would you like to take a reward going a little bit later within turn order, but then also risk losing some of the powerful actions that can occur? In summer, we will then use our workers to actually take actions, and we'll go through what each of these actions can do later in the video. We then move into fall. We'll be drawing a visitor card and moving into the winter phase. Again, we can play our workers that we haven't already played to take various actions, from gaining more workers to fulfilling our wine orders. We will then finish the year end and go back to the beginning, starting again and everyone choosing in their spring actions. Every player will actually have access to the main board, but will also have their own player board, and this is their ability to find workers and their vineyard itself. On your turn, you'll be looking at actions you could take in the associated season, but then you will be resulting it on your player board. Will you be building more structures? Will you be placing grapes in various different fields, or will you be cultivating and making your wine into your cellars? So let's go into the two main seasons. You have summer and you have winter. In the summer actions, you could build a new structure. So these structures will allow you to either build certain grapes in your fields, they will allow you to do special actions like the windmill cottage or tasting room, or you could even extend your cellar to hold better and older wine. You'll actually be able to give tours where you actually gain money that you'll be able to use in later turns, for instance, hiring more workers or buying various different boons. You can draw cards, and cards in your hand will actually make a big difference to how you can actually alter the game state and win. You can play cards, so playing one of your summer cards will allow you to do various different actions based on the card, so make sure you read through what some of those cards mean. You could also sell one of your regions, and if I wanted a quick cash grab, I could sell this region for 7 gold. It means I have extra gold available to me when I need it. I could also plant grapes, which will actually give me the ability to make wine in the future. In the winter actions, we can actually go through and either draw a purple card, which are our big bulk orders. These are the conversations we're having with those big retailers trying to sell the wine for us. And we're going to be fulfilling that using the fulfill action. We could also hire more workers as we go through, and this will give us more actions through future turns. Another action we could do is harvest fields. And once we've got those wines and we've got them into the barrels, we can actually make those wines and put them into our cellars ready to sell. The final action is to play a blue card, giving us various extra actions similar to the yellow cards of summer. There's also one final action that you always need to be aware of, and that is the gain action. And you can play this through either summer or winter simply by placing a worker on that space. What you will notice within all of these actions is there are various different levels. Based on the number of players you are playing with, you can either place 1, 2, or 3 within that region. You'll notice that the middle one actually has an extra bonus on every single location. And this actually gets you that bonus. So for instance, if I was to place my worker there, I would gain the 2 from giving a tour, plus an additional 1, giving me a total of 3 coins for me to play with. At any time, if all of those actions are filled, you could use your grande worker. And you notice that they are slightly bigger than the other workers. And the grande could go anywhere without being blocked by anyone else. So for instance, in a 2-player game, if I had placed both of my actions there, but I still wanted to take that action for whatever reason, I could actually also play my grande there. In a 4 or 5-player game, that might be filled with all the workers, and that might not just be mine, that could be other workers, but in this example, I would still be able to use my grande or massive worker to still perform that action. It is important to note that we only have one grande worker, and you can never get any more grande workers. So although it does not prevent you from ever using it, it does mean you can only use it once in any year. Once everyone has taken their actions for a season, we move on to the next season. The only thing to note is once we are resolving the winter season, we actually resolve the year end. And this is very simple to do. Let's say we've got an example where I have 2 wines in my pads, and I also have 2 wines in my cellar. At the end of the year, every wine will move up by 1. You'll notice that in this example, I do not move my small cellar up any further because it is as old as I can get it. If I had built the medium cellar, then this would have also gone up into the 4s. And this occurs at the end of every round, giving us more taste and aromas and richness that is going to get us more points. So let's go through a round of viticulture. Starting in spring, I would choose my starting location. Let's say I would choose this second starting location. That would allow me to draw 1 card, and I would have my green card. In this example, I have drawn a Sauvignon Blanc, and it actually requires me to have the irrigation built. Let's, for this instance, pretend I had the irrigation built, which would be done by the build structure. What I could actually do is place a worker onto the plant function, and I'll grab an extra one just because we're going to show you in this example. And this also requires the Chardonnay. So what we'll actually do is, for the Chardonnay, we actually require the trellis. So as our first action, I'm going to take the build action. That build action gives me 1 gold. And to build the trellis actually costs me 2 gold. Now you could actually have just taken 1 gold because it's 1 gold cheaper, but I usually find that building it is also useful. This would then move on to the next player who would take their actions, and it would come back to me. So I would take my second action. Hopefully this plant is still available, and I'd be able to plant 1 green plus the 1 green for that placement. So I'm going to take both of my wines, and we're going to put them into 2 separate fields. It's important to note that if you're building in the same field, these whites add together and would actually generate a 7 white. I don't actually want that. That's too big of a wine for me in this instance, so I'm going to put them into 2 separate fields. Each field has a maximum value you can have. So this first field has a maximum of 5, so I could only ever put an extra 1 wine there, whether that's a red wine or a white wine. This next one is 6, and the final one is 7. If I was ever to get this sold back, I'd have to go to this center action where I'd be able to buy it back for the amount of gold I sold it. I would then actually pass the turn on to the next player. Once everyone has passed, we then move into the next season. Before we do this, in the fall, we'll draw a visitor card. So drawing a visitor card, we then have extra cards in our hand. Moving into the winter phase, I still have 2 of my workers left, and the first thing I'm going to do is place my harvest 1 field. Now this is actually harvest 1 field, but it gets a +1 from that middle section. So it means I get to harvest 2 fields. I have 2 fields ready for it, so let's actually put that in play. One's going to get a 4 white and one's going to get a 3 white. 4 white, and a 3 white. If at any time I had something already on there, it goes to the next lowest space already in play. So if I was to do that now, which I can't, I've already harvested these fields this turn, but in future turns, if I wasn't able to, it would go down to the 1. From here, I still have 1 worker left, so everyone else has had their turns, it's come back to me, and I'm actually going to make wines. Now within here, it's actually make 2 wines, but then you get a +1. So now I'm actually going to be able to make 3 wines. It's useful to note that within this, the same principle occurs. If I was to move my 4 across, it would actually go and become a 3. So I'm not going to move my 4 because that's not good for me. So I'm going to move these 2, they will go into there. And I could either move my 3 into the 2 spot, or because I have this medium cellar already built, I can use my 4 white and my 3 red to make a blush. Now 4 and 3 makes 7, but I can't actually make a 7 because I don't have a large enough cellar. But this would just go onto the 6 and this would come off. I've made my blush wine and I've also made my other 2 white wines. From here, I'll be able to fill orders in future turns, and these orders will actually give me the ability to fill orders, score points, and ultimately win the game. And that is how you play Viticulture. It's a very strategic, economic, and creation game in which you're trying to build value within your farm whilst also being aware that your competitors are trying to do the same. We actually have a lot of videos on this channel, and we also stream these games live. So make sure you check out our social media links below, and also check out the WePlay of Viticulture where we stream this live and add it as a VOD for you to watch later. Thanks for joining us at the table, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye!